The idea of an international citizen to me is far more valuable than that of just a U.S. citizen.
Thousands of companies have already gone international, and thousands of others are thinking about going international.
It's our responsibility to internationalize the students' education, to globalize.
Our world is changing. Our world is becoming more globalized. This globalization has a lot to do with cultural factors, with economic factors, and we want to make sure that we transfer that to our students.
Right now, our primary audience is Pinellas, Pasco, a little bit of Hillsborough County, but the students need a perspective that's broader than that.
It is very important for me as a professor and educator from St. Petersburg College that the college actually becomes part of this global world.
It is important to internationalize St. Petersburg College as we better understand the implications and interactions in our current world.
There's a lot of communities around us that they have other cultures, and we have to take advantage of that community.
The college as a whole needs to kind of look at what we can do to participate, at the same time how that participation benefits us as an institution.
Okay, we're getting ready to start, and I would like to give the mic for these wonderful students.
Hi, I'm Amel. I went to Belize on a study abroad with Mr. Wallace, and it was awesome and did a lot of things I never thought I would do. I've also been to Turkey and Germany, and I hope to travel all over the world.
Hi, how's everyone doing? Good. My name is Janice Collins, and I have never been outside of this country. Yes. I'm very excited about going to Italy in the summer. So, yay! Round of applause. I'm very excited about going to Italy. I've never been anywhere, and that's it. Oh, my major is nursing. I plan to be a nurse anesthetist.
Hello. My name is Victoria Reese. I go to the Gibbs campus. I'm currently on the tennis team, so if you'd like to come support us, that'd be awesome. I'm going to be studying in Spain this summer. I'm very excited because my entire family is from South America, and I don't know one word of Spanish. Well, I know some, but thank God for translation.com. because Rosetta Stone, yes. Here you go.
Top of the morning to you. I went to Ireland last year with PCAS, Professor Kessler. My name is Mandy DeWitt, and my major is psychology and law enforcement.
Hey, this is Adil I'm an international student. We come from different countries here. We don't go, we usually come here. So it's good to be here. And I go to Gibbs campus, my advisor Anna, and my director Rod. It's good to be here, and I'm from India. And some quick words in Hindi. Aap sabka swagat hai. It's a welcome in India. That's the way we say. All right. And my major is in computers.
Here we go. Okay, so, hi. My name is Chawanapong Jasawan, and you'll be like, what kind of name is that? So, yep, you can call me Pipe. So, and I'm from St. Pete Gibbs campus, and I'm an international student, just like him. And I'm from Thailand. It's far away. It's like halfway up there or whatever. So, yep. And my major is engineering. That's what I'm studying right now. And welcome in Thai is ยินดีต้อนรับท่านผู้เป็นเกียรติทุกท่าน
Let's give him a round of applause.
Good afternoon, and my name is Jim Oliver. I don't get out of Seminole. Very good. Very good. It is my pleasure to welcome you here this afternoon for this creative session on international programs, international activities. I was with a group of business leaders the other day, and we were talking about business and programs and studies, and somebody talked about international business, and another member of the group said, don't you understand, all business is international. All business is international. And it made me think that all education is international. And what we teach to our students and what you young people and students here in the classroom, it has to have those elements about the global economy. We have to talk about the geopolitical situation in countries around the world, because that helps define who we are and what we are and the world in which we're preparing you to live. So generally, the internationalization of the college is an essential component of what we do as educators. And so it's really a delight to host you in this Digitorium. Ironically, this venue was created in part for this very sort of thing. One of the very first sessions we had in here was a session on international tourism. And you mentioned top of the morning. We had international tourism expert from Ireland who joined us here via video conference. So we see this as the type of venue where we can do more programs like this. And I just want to applaud you for being part of this creative session and helping all of us together work on moving the ball forward on internationalizing the college. Have a great session today, and thank you for being here.
Good afternoon. I'm Catherine Kennedy. I'm the Associate Vice President of the University Partnership Center and International Programs. According to the research, with a goal of cultural competence, we need to increase our connectedness. That's globalization. And why do we want to do that? So that we can understand how internationalization contributes to our students' learning. But not just our students' learning, to our staff learning, our faculty learning, everyone here at St. Pete College. We in higher ed, in order to become internationalized as an institution, must be willing to change our assumptions and our perspectives. An example of that would be for us to consider that concept that we talk about of brain drain. Well, what about the flip side? Brain gain, and then globalize it. Brain conceptualization. Remember when internationalization used to just consist of studying abroad or just recruiting international students? Well, back in the 90s, or since the 90s, due to some mobility issues, it is so much more than those two things. You are here because you recognize that international exchange is key to our academic profession, which is why I am so excited about this creative session today, because all it will do is increase St. Pete College's existing study abroad programs, increase our student international enrollment, but it also helps to emphasize what St. Pete College already has committed to. We've already committed to internationalization, and that's proved by the requirement that we have for including a global view to the student's associate degree. It's part of their requirement now. So in conclusion, let's be determined to connect the college to the larger world. Thank you and enjoy.
Good afternoon. I'm Joe Leopold, Acting Director of Learning Resources. My job is to introduce Dr. Caligieri this afternoon. I have a few words I want to say first about study abroad and share a couple experiences, and then we'll move into the brief introduction. As Catherine had said, now more than ever, it's important to think and act globally. We know in the post-11 world that communicating openly, being transparent about our intentions, and working collaboratively will be necessary for meeting our needs, sustaining the environment, and managing our resources. Students who study abroad often return as transformed learners. They're sitting in the back there, right? And those of you who are anticipating going, you too will transform. They have been part of a lived, shared experience, sometimes captured on Facebook, hopefully not, that transcends the norms and behaviors of their daily lives. I know this because I participated in a study abroad program as a high school sophomore and then again as a college junior. In both instances, I was changed by the people and the institutions I encountered. The same goes for the several study abroad programs at SPC that I've had the good fortune to have been part of Again, in each instance, I was changed in some way, small or large. The greatest changes, however, were experienced by the students with whom I traveled. In many cases, they came back with their senses wide open and a strong desire to do it again. But thinking and acting globally requires more than just studying abroad. Today's keynote speaker, Dr. Carlos Calighieri, will discuss other ways to internationalize campuses. Having been already a researcher, professor, and dean, Dr. Calighieri comes to us as Director, International Academy of Medicine and USF Health, Ibero-Americas programs. His experiences in international education are wide and deep, and they have involved life and death circumstances in the areas of pediatrics, endocrinology, metabolism, and nutrition. Please help me in welcoming our keynote speaker, Dr. Carlos Calighieri.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, good. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for the invitation, and it is really a pleasure for me to be here talking to my colleagues, most of you involved in the international arena, some of you as officials and administrative in the position of handling these very interesting and I think very important programs for colleges and universities around the globe. I really believe that academy is a way to bring peace to the world. And we're not only playing a role as educators, but also a role to bringing peace and creating peace around the globe. So let me just briefly talk a little bit. I have the three positions that I have there because I want to give you an example. I'm not a regular officer for international programs. I'm working in the College of Medicine in very particular initiatives right now. I've been in the States since 2008, working for USF, and I'm very excited about all the things that we are doing at USF. This is the International Academy of Medicine, and basically is a gathering faculty who are interested in international work. And it is a voluntary association. We have been able to gather about 200 faculty from the College of Medicine. Most of them are mentoring students that are coming from internationally to do observers at the different hospitals, or invited to go abroad and give talks and in meetings or in different scenarios. We have a program called I Am the Educator, which is creating opportunities for them to know more about medical education, because they're usually clinicians and people who are very expert in the area, but not necessarily good educators or good teachers or have training in teaching. This is the other program. It's called the Ibero-Americas program. This is a little more organized program, and really, if you can see, there are 5 areas: education, research, faculty, and students. What I call the 2 areas here, networking and leadership, and entrepreneurship and ventures, which are a little more soft and creative ways of creating opportunities for faculty and students. And if you see here, you go across the different colleges at USF Health, and of course we have indicators, which are different indicators of output, and including, because all these programs, as all the people been working in international know, there is not a lot of money. We have also to be creating how to bring opportunities with the resources that we have for these programs. And the third position, which is a very late position, is I'm now at Camels. I don't know if you have heard. USF has opened in downtown a center for advanced medical learning and simulation. It's a very innovative center, and under that umbrella, which is a continuing education umbrella, we are working in an initiative called Asclepias, Advanced Solution Clinical Leadership for the Ibero-Americas, which is bringing together the 70 affiliated institutions, academic institutions in the region who are affiliated to USF in creating opportunities for education, for training, and for a partnership. I was invited to talk about ways to the importance of internationalizing colleges and universities. And the first question I ask is there a beneficial economical impact of internationalizing? And this is an example for the Information Trade Administration Department of Commerce. And really, when I saw this graph, I didn't know that education was the fifth more productive of the services that the United States is doing internationally, with 17.8 billion of exports against 5.2 billion of imports. And when we look at the surpluses on international education, we can see that there is a 12.6 in education, and you compare here down here with film and sports and arts, which I thought was a big industry, is more or less the same. So the size of what is the international education is as big as what is our TV and sport and art industry. And when we look at the state, Florida is the fifth, sometimes sixth state with more international students. And in 2009, 2010, Florida generated an impact of $827 million of revenues, $555 million of tuition in the state through the international students' activity. It is expected that this amount will double totally for the whole country in 2020. So I think Florida has a great opportunity. Florida only has a sharing of 4.3% of the total international students. And I think not only the big universities, but also the colleges in Florida can play an important role to increase the percentage of participation of this state to the international student numbers. The international programs, the traditional, as I mentioned before, that we know, we have the program, the international student programs. Usually we're based in language institute centers or in international student offices or programs. These are the numbers since '56. We know that after 9/11 we had a recession or decrease in numbers, decrease in the slope, but still, despite of that, it's been growing since 1956. And in last year, the record that got is to 723,277 students, which is a 30% increase since 2001. So we have an increased number of international students coming to the U.S. to study in different opportunities. And when we look at the previous year, the year 2010-2011, we have 214,000 students, which is an increase of 5.7% over the year before. So despite the fact that we had some years with a recession, I think we are in a right path, as was mentioned before, and we can do a lot more with our international students nationwide and in the state. When we look at the universities that are offering more opportunities or with high numbers of foreign students, we have the University of Florida first, Florida International, University of Miami, University of Florida, and Central Florida. I was wondering, I couldn't find the data from the colleges, but I'm wondering what is the percentage that the college provide, and I think the colleges can play a very important role, and if not, have not played yet, but can play a very important role in the next future. And looking at the leading places of origin, China and India are, of course, the two biggest countries. Venezuela, surprising for me, was an important country, and then Saudi Arabia and South Korea. I think it would be important to also present this data as a percentage of the student population, because we are comparing huge countries with very small countries. So it would be important to know what percentage of the potential market we are really looking into the different countries in order to establish what could be the opportunities for like a college like St. Pete College in the future. Then the other traditional program that we know has been the study abroad opportunities, and also when we look at the chart in Open Doors for the study abroad, there's been an increase since 1919. There were in last year 270,604 students, U.S. students went abroad, which was an increase of 3.9% over the previous year. And I think this is also a great numbers that we're showing. But very, very intriguingly, I found this data too. The percentage of students that go abroad for all the higher education system is 1.4%. But when you look at U.S. undergraduate or U.S. undergraduate pursuing bachelor degrees, it goes up to 14%. So really, this is a great opportunity for colleges that are providing undergraduate degrees for continuing to participate internationally in studying abroad. Probably because when you enter into a PhD program or you enter in a master program, you have much less opportunities to travel because you are under a lot of pressure for graduation or for other type of participation. And looking at the numbers of Florida, we had in 2008, 2009, 7,900, and in 2010, 8,900. 8,100, which is showed an increase also in the state. Then we have other traditional programs which are not, I couldn't find really data about how these can provide or increase the opportunities, except for the academic itself, but related to activities or economical impact. And one is the possibility for faculty exchanges. I don't know how easy it is in this college or in the colleges. In the big universities, particularly USF, it's not something easy. The faculty has a lot of pressure under their contracts, and particularly either they can find a full ride program or something that really subsidize all the program, or it's very difficult. Sometimes they have to take it under their vacation time or their leisure time. There is a great opportunity about international research. If you look at that NIH and National Science Foundation and other important agencies for funding, even Gates and others, there is a lot of international opportunities for research. It's not easy to apply or to get this kind of research. You need to have before a network, an international network working. It's very difficult in a month time period to be able to create or propose something that you don't have previously in place and working. So this is part of the challenges that we have for these research opportunities, to create this network. So when an opportunity for a grant appears, we have already the network established, so we are able to apply and successfully apply for these opportunities. And then we have The dual degrees, which is culturally is not really very big yet in the United States, is moving forward, but comparing to Europe, where they have a long tradition on degrees that are recognized, or experiences in different countries where they are recognized in different countries and in different universities. But I think there is a lot of space in those programs that we could move forward also internationally. Now, since the idea of this conversation was really create some challenges, I want to move forward, which already someone before, or one of the speakers before mentioned a little bit about what I'm going to touch here. I'm going to go very fast. I'm going to go into details about maybe I would say superficially some concept, but the idea really is what I would like to do is an overview of what's going on around the world, and that you feel challenged about creating new opportunities and new ideas of what's going on in this new era. And whatever the position that we can have against, in favor, or neutral against globalization, the reality is the Earth is getting smaller and smaller and smaller for everyone and every second. And here is the population. I'm from the Beatles. I can't believe that we were there and now we are here in population, and it's just was yesterday, as they song. So, but the population is growing very fast. But one of the important things is that we need. It is important to remember is it's not coming. The growth is not coming from the more developed countries. It's coming from the underdeveloped country. So there is a lot of population that is growing and has a big need of education and development. The Federation of United Nations Association has created these 15 global challenges in 2010, and if you look into them, there is in each one of them there is a component, an educational component behind any of these titles that are there, and those are important challenges for the world in the next decade. I'm sorry, this is the only slide I have in Spanish, but I was very complicated. I'm sorry, very complicated to translate. Just to show here, this is from a friend of mine, Dr. Viveros. Here are the spiritual belief. This is from 2000, 2 million years before Christ, and then after, and how the society has been organized in tribes. Agricultural cities, city-states, national states, and now we are going to what we call supranational states and the global economy. And here, how this is related to a way of how the society would work. This is the recollector, the hunters, the agricultural, the commercial, urban, and the urban industrial, and now we're moving into the mega economies, and how this is also related to some paradigms on some discoveries. This is the basic instruments, fire, writing, this is Copernicus time, this is the ecological paradigm, and we are here. So this is not globalization. We can be in agreement or disagreement with the term, but really what's going on is the evolution of the society, and is creating different perspective of how the society itself is organized and how the economy into the society is moving. And if you look at the economical at the expansion of business, you can see that from a local market, then there was export products, and then international representatives, then storages international, then maquilas, and then the transnational network development outside. So we move into internationalization, transnationalization, and now into this concept of the global capital economy. And there, in these two forces, the direction of the economic integration and the direction of the global competitiveness. And if we look at it in a business that is here, the business would not compete individually anymore, but they have to compete you have to compete in a complex chain of network association interaction within the local market to the global market. So in order to survive in this global economy, there's more and more agreements between countries, and that some of them, including also professional mobility, like the European Union is a good example, and now Asia is also moving into the concept of mobility of professionals within countries. So we have this global cultural, economical, and technological space where we have practically cities in each one of the countries, and but really we can have a piece of Tokyo, a piece of New York in any part of the world, and we are creating this development of big, huge cities where we have areas of development that are first world, next to slum areas that are really third world in almost all the countries, including here in the United States and in the very best developed countries. And this picture shows, this is Marcos Angelotti, shows in these two graphs how by distortioning the size of the different countries, how wealth can be represented and human poverty can be represented, showing the disparities in one and the other. And this has created, worries on the international arena, and the world, the United Nations has created the Development Millennium Goals to try to solve some of the problems of the poverty, not only in the poor countries, but also the disparities within countries. And these are the 8 Millennium Goals. And if you look at the Millennium Goals, there are 4 areas. One is education, definitely. Here's education as a one component. The other one has to do with health, these 3. The other 2 has to do more with economical issue, and the other one has to do with environment. So there are 4 really, 8 goals, but 4 areas involved in the 8 goals of the United Nations. Because of the need of creating something that shows not only the income, which is the gross product, but also the development of the measure of development, we created such an index called Human Development Index. And you can see here the relationship between GDP and the Human Development Index. But if you look at what are the components of the Human Development Index, we find again health and education as component of the Human Development Index. So education is again into that component, but they forgot to put environment. They didn't put environment. So then we came with the concept of ecological footprint, because we realized that the development may have something to do with the way we use our resources, our land resources, our natural resources, and we define the ecological footprint as the area of productive land and water ecosystem that we produce, that we are able to, that the earth is able to accumulate. And we define, I don't know if this is a right or wrong index, but 1.8 bioproductive hectares per person as planet. So we can measure actually how much impact we have in future generations by using more what the biocapacity of the earth to replace all the waste we are putting in. And strikingly, what's happening is since 1987, we are using more resources that were really Earth can handle, and we're increasing and we're not stopping doing that, and there is no show that we are going to be able to reverse that in the short term. So we create this concept of sustainable development, where we now include the society, economic growth, social justice, and also the environment. But when we look at the Human Development Index here down here to the ecological footprint, we find that the developed economies are the ones that are creating more ecological footprint and that the underdeveloped or developing or the emerging are moving forward toward this path. So if we are doing a lot of effort internationally using the 8 Millennium Goals, try to move forward the underdeveloped to the developed, but we want to put the developed countries into the same quadrant that we put on the footprint, what we are creating is a really unsustainable planet in a very short time. So because the quadrant that what we're supposed to be is really this quadrant over here, where using the resources in such a manner that really the Earth is able to replace those resources. But if you can see, none of the developed countries are into that quadrant yet, although efforts have been made. I'm not concerned about these countries because I know it's a political decision they can move down here. I'm concerned about all these other countries that are moving forward, in what model they are moving forward, and how they can move forward into not an area where they increase our footprint, ecological footprint. And then in the health arena, we created the World Health Organization also as an international organization for creating wellness. We define a global concept of health as a complete state of almost happiness, and not only the absence of disease, but we haven't been able really to solve many of the health problems in the world. This is a publication in 2007 about the World Health Organization, A Safer Future. And we can see what are some of the threats, for example. This is the flight CA-112, and this person here was infected with SARS, which is the severe acute respiratory syndrome this is the case here, coming from Beijing. This is a flight from between Beijing and Hong Kong and Beijing. And he infected all these other people here. And then, the end of that flight was 154 deaths and 3,000 cases. How many flights a day we have around the world? How many diseases we have? And the flights are increasing. So we are all the time we're under a risk of a major epidemic. This is H1N1. Fortunately, it happened that it's not as bad as we thought at the beginning. But if you see the distribution in 2009, you can see easily that these are areas where there is a lot of traffic, air traffic, airplane traffic, a lot of communication. And if you see inside the United States, what happened is more or less the same. The areas with major communication, massive communication, of course, also more population. This is not the only problem. We are quite doing a good job controlling infectious diseases around the globe. But what is happening, and this is just to show, let me just show you here because these are the communicable diseases, the infectious diseases, etc., except for Africa. In all the other countries, it's kind of for male and females. This is deaths for these diseases. Injuries is also low. But what happened is the chronic diseases are very high in all the countries. So what is happening is we're reducing the infectious diseases and what we call the underdeveloped diseases, but we are getting huge numbers of people with diabetes, cardiovascular disease at a very young age. People that have already big problems before the age of 60 or die before the age of 60 in the developing countries because of these diseases. And in this graph to show, this is the blue, the clear blue here. These are the infectious diseases. These are injuries. And this to show, these are different regions of the world, how, the more you develop, the more you get the chronic diseases, which have big economical impact in the health system in those countries, which is something that was not included in the Millennium Goals, by the way, and there's a lot of discussion about including chronic diseases in the Millennium Goals because it's really a huge global problem. So in this report, they say, today more than ever, international spread of disease or the risk threaten health, economies, and security. No country can go it alone in protecting its citizens from that threat. So we are not alone. We cannot think that even if we are we are not in interaction with around the globe. So the problem of internationalization and globalization go beyond not only the concept of economy, but also of the concept of surviving as a human race. Then we have other things that also are in this soup. The role of information technology. I was really amazed when I started looking to these figures. There are 2 billion internet users in 2010. So we are about 6 billion inhabitants, more or less. So a third of the population is using already internet. And the penetration is 29% around the globe, with 445% growth between 2000 and 2010. And you can see how the different regions are participating. And then we have languages in internet. And the first language, of course, is English, not only because it's spoken English, but also because it's the internet language. And Chinese second, with quite a bit of inhabitants using that, and Spanish third, then Japanese another. So we can prioritize where, by looking at this, what are the major languages that are spoken right now, at least into the internet. And this is another slide, and my last slide on this reflection is in 60 seconds in social media. I got this from Jumpstart. There are, I don't know some of them. I don't know if Flickr does, but let me link, for example, 7,610 requests, researchers in LinkedIn in 60 seconds, 700,000 Facebook messages, and 2 billion YouTube video views in 60 seconds. When you imagine that a video that you can build in your house, in any place, can be seen at this rate around the world, you are really talking about another level of communication that you could never imagine before. So in the new scenarios, new challenges, I know we mentioned before, but are we thinking of exchanging people, going abroad or coming here, or are we thinking really to overcome what's going on in the world? It doesn't matter if you move or not, if you go to another country or not. If we can create an environment in our universities that create really a global citizen or a global professional with a concept that can handle the globe, with a possibility to work any place that person or different places that person would like to, if in the future the situation where we are living right now is not the good anymore, can we create those opportunities? Then I would just put on the table some ideas. How we can create policies for faculty encouragement in global activities? How can we create innovative programs and courses for new careers or new opportunities that are not even open yet, but can be opportunities in the future? How we can create new degrees with global-oriented curriculum, maybe accepted by different of our partners institutions in different places in the world. How can we create multicultural international campuses? Maybe by using more IT and social networking, by cooperative academic and industry partnership. We have not been able really, generally speaking, except for some universities, to include the industry as our partners internationally. And they are there in the international markets, but somehow we're not being able to connect education with our industry. And can we anticipate potential markets and trends to be able to create opportunities for what will be the careers and the opportunities in the future? Thank you very much. This is.
Thank you, Dr. Caligari. Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, that was very informative. I think I picked up about 10 different things from that, and I hope everyone did as well. For those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Rod Davis. I'm the interim director of the Center of International Programs. And I'd like to go ahead and sort of start our panel discussion here. Dr. Caligari mentioned Facebook and social media, and I thought this was an appropriate picture to put as far as the transactions that go on worldwide in a visual scale so everybody can see that. And our greatest challenges today are global. Business and culture are transcending national borders. U.S. students will need to stay competitive. I think that's clear. Some important facts. Out of the top 5 study abroad countries, China, India, South Korea, Canada, and Taiwan. Florida is the 7th. I believe Dr. Caligari said 5th. I'll go with his 5th. And the top 3 fields of study for U.S. Students are social sciences, business management, and humanities. Having said that, I would like to go ahead and introduce our panelists. Dr. Caligari. Dr. Dave Liebert, our very own. Dr. David Moore from Broward College. And Jennifer Robertson from Valencia College. And I believe we have a wealth of a panel here. So let's begin this panel by throwing out a question out there. And this is a question that's been talked about. What does it mean to be an internationalized college? I'll let anyone who wants to answer that first jump on that.
I don't think there's one answer to that question. I think there are 50 people here in the room, and everyone has their own definition. And there are so many aspects to it, but they would include many of the components that Dr. Caligari was referencing in his presentation. To me, internationalization of the campus, and by the way, this is something we're looking at Broward College as a potential QEP, if you know what I mean. It would include a greater focus on world geography and language, which is at least 2 areas where we're chronically weak in the U.S. I think of, when you think of geology, marine biology, zoology, astronomy, I mean all the sciences, basically, they all involve international aspects. You can't just study American geology. It's world geology. Comparative studies. You'd want to have a lot of comparative studies. It's just not U.S. history, U.S. literature, or American religion. It's comparative religious studies. It's comparative literature, comparative history, comparative political sciences, political philosophies, and economics. So I would encourage that kind of diversification, in the curriculum. You look at offering world history as a possible gen ed course. I know you do. I taught it here, actually. I remember that well. But offering that and focusing on kind of the global aspect to a subject that we might think of as just something we would focus, in the past, we might have just thought of as a US-based kind of study. Area studies courses, of course, like Middle Eastern studies, African studies courses, and certificate programs would be part of the mix. There's one school in Illinois, Oakton Community College, has a global studies certificate. So just because we're not a university doesn't mean we can't do that. And they have 4 or 5 classes that are in this program that are required. If you're going to get the global studies certificate, you're going to take these courses. Broward is offering a new program in global trade and logistics. And that's an aspect of business that we really hadn't developed in the past, but now we are. And supply chain management. So we have a 2-year associate's degree in global trade, and then the 4-year degree in supply chain. So I wouldn't have thought of that 4 or 5 years ago as being part of the internationalization of the curriculum. But those are just some aspects. We talked about study abroad. We talked about the international students that have to come. And then, of course, the diversity of faculty. It's the members of your faculty and staff. That's a big part of this. They should be representing your entire student body, because your student body is more diverse today. Just a few thoughts.
Anybody else want to?
I think I would add on just a couple of brief comments to what Dr. Moore was saying. As somebody who spends a good portion of my day in the classroom, I also view this internationalization as really a pedagogy. I mean, it's a way of teaching and learning. And for those of us who teach, I think the challenge is to ensure that we aren't shoehorning it into the curriculum, that we really are offering these concepts of internationalization in really a seamless sort of strategy in the classroom.
At Valencia College, we are in the beginning stages of implementing a new strategic plan for international education at the college. And we have a multi-pronged approach where part of it is trying to grow study abroad in terms of short-term faculty-led and semester students, sending semester students abroad. But also, since that's about 1% of the population and much less at Valencia, really looking at how we can internationalize the curriculum for the 99.9% of our students that won't ever study abroad or who may not even leave the state of Florida. We're also looking to grow faculty and student exchange programs. We're looking to grow our international student population at the college. And another one of our strategic goals is to look at how to create opportunities for our international students and our domestic students to integrate. So it's great that they're all on campus, but are they really working with each other, hanging out with each other? And we want to create those opportunities where they can actually integrate and share to learn from each other.
Okay, and I know that we're recently getting ready to do a faculty exchange program here with Dr. Liebert to Ulster University in Ireland, and I know that that's gonna go real well. But for some of the faculty out there that have some perceptions, whether positive or negatives, of what can hinder a college into moving forward, is there any advice that any of you can give as to some of the barriers that are out there?
Well, yeah, of course. There's always there's a balance between the risk and the reward. So we, especially when you're involving the students who are the precious offspring of moms and dads, and you want to take them abroad, and you put them, you're afraid, they're going to put my child in harm's way. So there are parents that are going to be very nervous about that, and in terms of study abroad. So they have to be able to see the vast reward possibility. And I can speak for the students that I've been with and led and study abroad tours, and many of you in the room I recognize have as well. The students come back a different person. They constantly talk about this being the most rich and rewarding experience of their life. If they study for a semester, they're going to remember that semester their entire lives. They're going to, it's always going to be before and after. That's how their lives are going to be defined in the future. They're not going to remember every other semester they spent in college, but they're going to remember that term they spent abroad. So that's the potential. And so the few that there is always a risk. So I worry when we get our risk management teams too close to the action, and our lawyers, and my father's a lawyer, so I love lawyers, but I worry about that. So there's a balance, and you cannot come up with every potential scenario for a disaster and say, well, that might happen, so we better not, because the reward potential is so much greater.
Anyone else want to?
Yes. I do think also one of the challenges, there is this perception out there that it's a paid vacation. Colleges send you away, oh, it's, as Rod was just mentioning, I'm going to be going to the University of Ulster next month and participating in a faculty exchange. And I hear comments like, oh, that's going to be a lot of fun. Oh, you're going to have such a good time. And don't realize the volume of work that's involved. To deliver lectures and be prepared to ensure that Americans are welcomed again at the University of Ulster, but to be prepared for those lectures. These are not courses I typically teach. It is a volume of work. And I know our students sometimes face that from their parents. When they approach their parents and say, I'd like to study abroad here or there, they perceive it as, you know, you just want to party. This is a lot of work. It's work for students. It's work for faculty. And I do think that is one of the myths that we need to sometimes have to overcome.
One of the challenges at Valencia College that faculty came to me early on, and just to give you 10 seconds of history, Valencia really had no office in place. Faculty were doing completely their own thing, and finally they decided, hey, you know, there's a liability issue here, we need to centralize it. They created an office, but it was like the same 6 people that kept running study abroad for many years. So faculty kept saying and asking the question, well, how can I lead a study abroad program if I have no experience? So 2 things that we've done in the last year. The first thing was to create some workshops. The first workshop was called The Roles and Responsibilities of the Study Abroad Program Leader. And the real intention is to show, to demonstrate and communicate that it is a lot of work to put these together. We invite the deans, so the deans know that it is a lot of work to put these together. And then the other part is to scare the pants off of them so that they understand that they're responsible for this trip and these students, and they have to be ready for it. And so we have actually had people attend the workshop and say, that's too much work, or that's not for me. And that's a good thing. That's when we want them to back out, not when they're about to get on the plane. The other workshop that we created was a longer series, how to design a study abroad experience for students. And we had a tremendous turnout for that, which really helped faculty prepare a proposal, write the proposal, design the activities and assessment methods. Then in addition, we created a study abroad program leader in training scholarship. So for somebody who has never had any international experience, they would apply for this, and we would pay for them to go on a trip 1 year with a veteran study abroad program leader, and that would be the year that they would learn. And then the next year, they would run a study abroad program. The intention would be with the same person, but if not, at least with another study abroad program leader from a different program. And then the 3rd year, they would run their own program by themselves. So that's how we've overcome that challenge.
Yeah, I think it's important to know that not all the faculty can really have an experience abroad or work abroad, and all the students also will have the opportunity to go abroad. There are many opportunities. I like very much this idea of being like a mentorship kind of process. But what I would say is important is that everybody recognize the importance of that activities, of those activities into the college, and everybody would participate. There are many opportunities. For example, we collaborated with Dr. Rash here, and you know, if any one of the faculties would be interested in the activities that we do in Latin America and would like to come with us or have an opportunity to develop a relationship, we could use the USF St. Pete College agreement to develop some kind of activities where we can partner together in some experiences. We've been working in Panama and in Spain for developing programs there. And we can bring along students although those are teaching courses, but we can bring along students and have some activities with them. So the creativity is there for any opportunity, and doesn't have to be like a semester, maybe just a short experience at the beginning, but to start going. But what I think is important is that once the college assumes that this is going to be an internationalized college as a mission, not only an office that handles in some cases of students abroad or some cases of students coming here, it would be a more massive way of collaborating and looking for different opportunities.
Thank you, thank you. One of the objectives that we wanted to do here was to also engage the audience and engage the faculty and see some of the questions that you guys had. So at this time, we would take an audience question, should anyone want to be the first. We do have a microphone. Thank you.
One of the last comments you just made made me think about the fact that when you're trying to do study abroad trips, oftentimes it may not mesh with the holidays or vacation times for the college. And I wondered if we can encourage the rest of the faculty to be understanding. So if we did take people abroad, and it's during spring break because that's when the weather is right, that's when the prices are decent, that kind of a thing, but the trip is longer than 1 week, so it might be a week and a half long, that the other faculty members on the college, as part of the mission to internationalize, would recognize, okay, we can make exceptions for those students who will miss a few days, because maybe 4 days abroad are going to teach them a whole lot more than 4 days in class back at SPC. And I just wondered if that's one of the things you're looking at as a way to involve everyone, not just people who actually physically want to take folks abroad, but also to get the encouragement. I do field trips with my students all the time. I teach art history. And when I'm going to the Ringling Museum, people who have a class immediately afterwards that's down in Sarasota, they might miss part of the next lecture. So if I work with just one teacher, it's usually doable. Unless they're giving a test that day, they're usually saying, okay, you can take your student down to the Ringling and so on. And it's worth the experience for them to see real art to make up for some missed time in other classes. But I just wondered if you wanted to address how you encourage that and if that's even part of the goal.
Now, I can answer that from a St. Pete College directional perspective, but I'd like to defer that to the panel first.
When Joe Leopold and I took our students to Northern Ireland about 2 years ago, as you said, sometimes the semesters over there don't mesh with our semesters over here. And I think what worked out effectively, because we needed to go the week, literally we flew over graduation. The only time I've been allowed to be excused from graduation, except we had to wear our cap and gowns on the airplane. I couldn't convince Leopold on that one, though. I tried. But I think what worked out effectively was really being able to advise students well, so they could balance a full-time load in the summer if they were interested to advise in the direction of perhaps taking online courses, to speak with faculty ahead of time, because that's part of the key. It's one thing when you've signed up for a class and you say, oh, by the way, I'm not going to be here next week. It's another thing when you approach a faculty member before the semester begins and say, I've also signed up for Professor so-and-so's class and I know these days will be missed. So I would throw back a comment to you that it might be helpful to let students know as soon as possible what days, to have that announced even on the first day of class, or to be able to share a syllabus with a student at SPC on Angel, for instance, before the start of the class, so students can begin to make those preparations even before the first day.
I'd like to add, we work in educational institutions. We have calendars. We have terms of study that begin and end certain dates. We have spring break, but generally speaking, we have to respect those calendars, even if the international site is on a different schedule. The idea of leading faculty or taking students on a faculty-led program gives you more flexibility to create your own agenda, your own itinerary. So you can kind of, like an accordion, expand or contract the length of the program according to the dates available to you. So happens we have a spring break tour. Our starts next weekend, and our president, believe it or not, is leading a group of faculty to Peru. Not a group of faculty, a group of students to Peru, and we're going to do a service learning project down in a village outside of Cusco. So that's pretty cool. And of course, we're going to leave at the beginning of spring break and end at the end of spring break. So they're respecting that full week. But it's the other point is that because we want the culture of support for international programming, it helps if you don't step on other people's prerogatives as faculty, and you say, well, I want to go into your class and tell everybody about this program, and I'm going to take your students for 5 days out of this class, so I hope you don't mind. You want to be careful of that. So that's why more of these trips happen to be in the summer, in the off terms, and the occasional one during spring break. Or you can do it over the Christmas winter holiday.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. One of the things that we've been looking at is we have been looking at shorter trips and looking at the spring break calendar and seeing if we can do year-round trips as well. So that is in the agenda. If I can move on to the next question, I know that Dr. Caligari touched on this briefly. In today's environment, why is it important to consider the impact of globalization on undergraduate student education? And I thought that was a very, very important and significant question. Would anybody like to?
I'd like to share a personal experience. I have a 14-year-old son who has a friend in the neighborhood. And my husband is from Puerto Rico. I lived in Puerto Rico for 7 years running a language school there. So my son was born in Puerto Rico. He's grown up in a bicultural, bilingual family. I sent him to Ecuador on a study abroad program last year. His friends are all colors. They speak all kinds of languages. But our friend in the neighborhood, who's his age, he goes to school with, they are from Florida, have never traveled. We invited them to participate in the study abroad program, and he declined. And we were talking the other day, and he was saying how there was a bunch of kids at school, and they speak all these foreign languages, and and they're dark colored, and I asked him, I said, so how do you interact with those kids? And he said, oh, I'm afraid of those kids. And I said, well, why are you afraid of them? And he said, well, I feel like when I walk by, someone's gonna attack me. And I thought it was just so interesting because it touches upon, I think, the work that we're trying to do in creating global citizens. And a lot of this work starts with the family, but we can only, we have these kids for 2 or 3 or 4 or 6 years. So we can only do so much, but I think the importance of creating that the global citizen, of course, it's to, all the things that were talked about in the presentation before, and all of the benefits we know about going beyond our borders. But it's really also to get along with one another in our neighborhoods, in our schools. I don't know, one of the slides, if you have seen, talked about peace and conflict resolution, and really getting people to understand and accept each other, even though they look different, or they speak differently, or they have a different way of life. And so for me, that's kind of something that hit home recently that I wanted to share.
Dr. Rod, there's something, the question was about why undergraduate education instead of, I suppose, graduate or even secondary. There's something about that 18 to 24-year-old demographic that is unique, I believe. Young people are just beginning to emerge, find their own identity, figure out who they are, what they want to do with their lives. And college is hitting them at a very impressionable period of time. So if you can infuse an international experience, what we now call the sophisticated universities refer to as education abroad. We still call study abroad. If you can do that during that coming of age period, I think it's going to have the greater impact.
Thank you.
I would look at this question very pragmatically. The pollster John Zogby, in his book The Way We'll Be, which I was able to listen to him give a keynote address last year, made the point that this traditional college-age student that you're referring to is more likely to have a friend who resides in another country than in generations past. Today, this traditional college-age student is 400 times more likely to hold a passport than students that age were in the 1970s. Concerning internationalization, these students are already on that boat, and I think as educators, the question is, do we want to have some influence on the rudder and the direction that they're going to be heading with this experience?
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Now, one of the things that we've looked at here is, and I believe colleges nationwide, is graduation rates and what people are doing afterwards, jobs and whatnot. How is internationalizing our college important to students during and after graduation?
Whole new world. You know, if you don't have global skills, communication skills, certainly, you're not going to be able to succeed in the big new picture that we're looking at. And I think Dr. Caligari made a compelling case for the fact that it's not, are we going to globalize? It's, we are already there. And how are we going to exist in the new world order? I'll give my own personal experience. I studied abroad. I bet you that many of the people in this room studied abroad. I'd just like to ask, how many of the staff or faculty here? Yeah, see, lots and lots. Does that make you want to go, do less international travel or more? Okay. Does that make you want to share that experience with others? Of course. And you're in a position to do so with young people. So I came to St. Pete College, wanted to do the same. I was able to be involved in 5 summer study abroad programs in the early aughts. And then I went to work at another institution, Broward, where we're doing international in a different capacity, and I'll maybe share a moment about that. But now my son is living and working in Vietnam. He wouldn't have done that if I hadn't been involved in what I did. So it's, you know, generational, and it's incredible to me to see that, how I could have never imagined him doing that, but it was a result of probably going back to 1970 something when I did my first international trip, you know. So 2003.
Okay.
You were there, Jim.
Dr. Caligari.
Yeah, maybe I'm just going to make a joke, but when I came, as you know, I'm from Venezuela. When I came the first time to the U.S., I was in 1983. I went to California, and California has many Mexicans, but also people from Central America. And you know, in Venezuela, even though we have people from different countries too, because everybody speaks Spanish, I was not really aware of any of the differences of the traditions of, for example, people from Honduras or people from Costa Rica, because everybody spoke the same language and it looked like everybody was following the same traditions that Venezuelans do. And when I was in LA, because here in the States everybody keep their own tradition, they try to keep their own local tradition. I realized that I knew more about the international Latin American community by being here and being in contact with them than really being in Venezuela. So I think you know, all our being in the United States and being so many countries represented here, so many people from different cultures, The opportunity to go abroad is also a way to create consciousness about the diversity here and about looking at the diversity from a different perspective. Because usually diversity has to do with minorities too, so the perspective that you have here, when you travel abroad and you see, you go to a country that is an underdeveloped country, but you see that there are different social classes, different cultures, different level of culture, you come back here and you see the same community in the same people in the different perspective too. I think it's very important, not only looking at the international part, but also how to internationalize what we have here. And I was telling our medical students, you don't have to go to Panama to see Spanish-speaking patients. You have a Spanish-speaking patient here in Florida. You don't see them as Spanish-speaking patients. You see them as U.S. patients. You have to look at them in a different way.
Great perspective. Okay, let's take another audience question. We have the microphone.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Roxanne.
I wanted to use actually a phrase that they've been using, or they will be using in SPC very soon, which is within reach. And I think it's a new motto of education is within reach right here. However, I have a problem personally that only 1% of the students in your institution or our institution can go abroad. Because I do understand that you have to internationalize the curriculum, and we can do it right here. But as Dr. Caligari has said, the perception is totally different when you study it in a book, when you go to the communities around you, than when you go abroad. And I know that students in Europe, they have the program like Erasmus, that anybody can go, not necessarily in the European community, but they can go abroad and they don't pay more. They just use their funds, how much they pay, and they go to any place for, another country for a year or half a year. And I wonder why we cannot do that in here. What's the difference? Why we cannot have in our institutions in America an Erasmus program where our institutions have within reach the opportunity to go abroad and experience that. So I wanted to hear your opinion.
I think it always comes down to money.
Why in Europe they can do it and our,
Well, in Europe also it's kind of similar to Florida, traveling to Georgia, going to North Carolina. It's my.
The Erasmus program, and again,
okay, you mean
the Erasmus programs?
Yes.
They go abroad. They go all over. They have the opportunity to apply to an Erasmus program to actually give the opportunity to any graduate or any student that's studying in a European community to go abroad for at least a semester to experience abroad. And they have partnerships all over the world. So I think it's doable. We are not an underdeveloped country here. We are a powerful economical country. So I just wonder if it's within reach of our higher education institutions.
Roxanne, I hear your question, and I don't have the answer. I wish I could say, well, the answer is. But I know it's something I'm sensitive to. And I agree with you when it comes to establishing relationships. It's part of why I know at SPC we've really tried to cultivate a relationship with Northwest Regional College, now Ulster College in Ireland, and to be very mindful about those costs and try to find those ways in order to reduce costs for students, whether it be allowing students to find their own air carrier, because they may be able to use their own Sky Miles, or they'll use their kayak or something to paddle over. But students were able to find creative ways of reducing costs. And many of them traveled to Ireland with Joe and I for less money than the college paid for he and I to fly, to foster those relationships with other institutions and get access to student dorms. I think that's one of the reasons why our trip to Ireland was so very affordable. Was because of the lodging. It was so reduced by being able to get access to student dorms. So it may not be able to provide the answer to that question, but I do think that there are things that we as faculty can do to be mindful and respectful of cost to students and try to minimize those when possible.
A couple of things that we've done, we've set up 2 different scholarship funds. So each year I apply to our student development and make a request on behalf of all programs for study abroad. And I ask for a lot of money, and they give me half of it or a third of it. And then I also ask our foundation. And when I make the request, I make it based on the number of proposals that have been approved, the number of students we expect. I show them how much it's going to cost the students out of pocket. And this year, all of our students were funded at 50%. We don't anticipate that moving forward because our study abroad programs are almost double for next year. But the other thing that we've done is we've actually attached the program fees to the courses. So now it's much easier for students that are eligible for financial aid. It's a very smooth process. So they may pay $200 for the out-of-pocket deposit, but then the financial aid covers the rest of it without any more out-of-pocket costs. So, and we're looking at providers that offer the free tickets for faculty. So we're very, very much focused on how to keep those costs down for as many students as possible.
I think Valencia has done a better job with this than probably any of our state colleges in Florida, supporting the study abroad opportunities for students. But when you compare the U.S. as a whole with, the Erasmus program that you referenced, there's a totally different economic structure here. Because in Germany, higher education is virtually free. In a lot of the EU countries, it is. So there's, of course, they have their whole Bologna process where it's very interrelated, and students, there's a lot of mobility between countries already. And so Erasmus is just an extension of that. So I think the mindset is already there, go abroad for higher ed. That is not the case in the U.S. So I would say that this is a sad fact, but probably correct, that if money were not the issue, there would still not be the same number of students traveling abroad as you would see from Europe coming, worldwide, because they're just, the mentality is already, it's already there, that internationalization is upon us and we're all going to have to learn to live in another society. But in the U.S. we haven't quite, gotten there.
Probably it is a lot better.
Yes.
It was a statement. Let's go ahead and take another. I think there was a question back there.
Yes, the question that I had relates to the age group. We said it's great when 18 to 24-year-olds can travel abroad. Many of our students in the College of Computers and Information Technology are not your traditional 18 to 24-year-olds, but quite mature adults. Do we have any kind of plans to address that diverse group of people?
We do.
And,
I would also.
What might we, as instructors, do to help facilitate something like that?
We, SPC, do have a plan of attack for that, but I would definitely like to defer this. I would like to hear what if the panels have any plan for that.
I think the non-traditional students are attracted more to the short-term programs, and there was a question earlier about when those run. And at Valencia, the mindset and philosophy is that you're given your break, and it needs to be your study abroad needs to be done during that break. But we have had quite a number of older students participate in those programs, and we're intending on growing the number of short-term programs that we offer, and also look for partnerships with other colleges so we could send our students on short-term programs for those students.
I would say that if they are more mature, I understand, more mature people, okay. In the case of computer science, more mature people willing to go abroad, I would say looking into possibilities for internship. There's a big need for people in computer science, so they could go to do internship even in companies, in business, or in factories, and it would be, they may even pay them to be there and do some kind of work. So you just have to create a network for that.
That was actually my question. I was
Yeah.
going to go there. I wanted to know, are there any successful best practice models that we are operating in the U.S. that actually connects academics and business in study abroad programs, so that students could, if they were linked up, because always the expense of housing is pretty comprehensive, but if they were able to stay at colleges and universities abroad while working.
I know of a university in Tampa called USF, and they have a program in Singapore and a program more recently in Peru. The College of Business has developed in conjunction with Broward College, another school represented here. And we offer the first 2 years of a 4-year university degree, just like you do, an AA degree with a business focus. And then USF, College of Business, offers the upper division, the 3rd and 4th year, in Lima, Peru. American students are welcome to join and go down and take part of that. So those kinds of things exist. They're not common, but if you know about it, I mean, St. Pete College graduate, because of our articulation within the state, or a Valencia college graduate could complete their university education at at a program like that is actually based in Lima, and study for a semester or finish the last 2 years, and it is a business program in Lima. So I guess it's a case of just knowing about it, doing the research, finding if it's the right program for you or your students.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. I know that we spoke a little bit, Jennifer Robertson and I spoke a little bit about the Florida International Consortium of Education and what they can offer for faculty members, and I think this would be a good opportunity to...
The Florida Consortium for International Education has been around since the 70s. I just discovered it a couple of years ago in my new role as Director of Study Abroad and Global Experiences at Valencia. And in the last year, I was actually elected to be Executive Director of FCIE. We are, well, historically, that group has met at an annual conference in the fall in Orlando. And so we're going to move that to the Valencia campus because it would be free. And the focus is on everything international, internationalizing the curriculum, study abroad, internationalization of the campus. Our conference this year is going to be September 27th and 28th. It is going to have workshops that would be of interest to faculty for many disciplines in every area of international. It will be at our Special Events Center on West Campus. And we are also talking about perhaps SPC hosting the event the following year. So we could move around the state and make it easier for faculty who may not have a lot of travel funds to be able to attend these types of events, because there are a lot of associations out there that have tremendous conferences where you learn a lot, but they are expensive and not everybody has the travel money. So this would be an inexpensive alternative where we bring the training to you.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and take one more question.
Dr. Caligari, you did a great slide on disease transmission, which I know it sounds a little off travel, but the general idea with disease is that you have a case that starts off and then you see the spread of that particular thing. And one of the things I think we have here at SPC is a substantial experience base of people who've traveled abroad who have direct contact with our programs outside of the instructors' opinions of how their travel is going, but the students themselves. And I would think that we would want to utilize those experiences much better than we have in the past. And one of the questions I would ask you guys is, how can we capitalize on these student experiences so they serve as that seed for a spread of the international program to the student community? Because as instructors, they see us as old people, basically. And yes, some of you. But from the student perspective, they have that particular age-appropriate outlook on that. But I don't know how we can capitalize that in a way that actually benefits our students to a higher degree, because those experiences are more likely to draw them in than in many cases our own discussion of how great our programs are, because we know they're good, but the student's translation is a little bit different than what sometimes we actually see. So how could we capitalize this resource better than we have been in the past?
Jim, I would first address your question by saying I think we need to perhaps showboat a little bit more and have our students showboat a little bit more their experiences. I know, for instance, one of the final assignments Joe and I did when we came back from Ireland was a presentation with students, but the expectation was they needed to bring a family member, they needed to bring a friend. The expectation on the faculty side, we need to bring an administrator like our dean or provost. And have it be more like a celebration and a sharing of what occurred in the venue of presenting this assignment. But having those other students present or even family present, I think helps to start plant some of those seeds, and also gets past this hurdle that it's just a party or it's just a vacation, and start to see the real academic value and integrity of the program.
Yes, thank you so much for your splendid information. I have a question about internationalizing the curriculum, right? Because that's obviously a springboard for travel abroad and increased global competency. David and also Jennifer, what kind of IDS initiatives do you have focused on global competency? What kind of maybe writing across the curriculum initiatives do you have focused on global issues? I know that at University of Tampa, quite a few of the freshman composition classes were focused on global issues, and I'm not sure what percentage, but when I was teaching there, we were told, when I was teaching there, I taught with a global issues textbook. So the students were actually in Composition 1 writing about global issues. So they were fulfilling the composition requirements, but writing essentially about global issues. So I was wondering what kind of programs you might have like that.
I can tell you we're at the beginning stages of this work. We have a committee that is actually taking the lead on this work. And what we're doing, step one, is establishing what the competencies of a global citizen are. So we've come up with a draft, and we're running that draft by every employee at the college and every student. We're going to get feedback on those competencies, and then once we all agree on what is a global citizen, what are the competencies of a global citizen, then what we're doing is we're looking at all of our course outlines to see what level they're already internationalized, whether it be some are very explicit and already inherently internationalized, like a humanities course, or an algebra class that is not. And then we're going to target, okay, so what would be the next step for them in terms of what training can we bring in, or sending faculty out to learn about internationalizing the curriculum. And there's some wonderful associations that do a great job of that training. And then also, in conjunction with all of that, we have to talk about assessment. And how do we assess our students? How do we know that they've achieved the course learning outcomes, but also achieved our global competencies over the time with us? So we're identifying different assessment tools for the course level, the program level, and the institutional level. And so we have the whole plan out, and we're just in the baby steps of starting to work on that.
Okay, I believe we're at that point. We are, if you guys would like, we are going to go pass out a little note card. If you have any other further questions that were not answered, you could write that card, and we can see if we can get that answered for you through the panelists. And also, as you leave, you probably received a little pamphlet of the many creative sessions. What we were hoping to do was to have this as the main session, and then have little small breakout mini sessions at your campuses where we could further discuss study abroad's curriculum and whatnot, and get in more of the in-depth conversations in regards to that. I'd like to give a round of applause here for our panelists. I know I certainly learned a lot, and I'd like to thank my staff for helping us put this together. and the administration, and certainly Dr. Law for his vision and support. And I appreciate you all for being here. We'll hang around for a little bit if you guys would like to chat. Thank you.